أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. All praise is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank Him for granting us this opportunity to converge on this venue this evening to continue the reading of our book Umdatul Ahkām by Al-Allamatu Al-Maqdisi alayhi rahmatullah. And this evening we shall be reading Al-Hadīth Al-Tasi'u wal-Arba'un. Al-Hadīth Al-Tasi'u wal-Arba'un, Hadith number 49. Bihamdillah, we have read 48 ahadith in our previous sittings, and this night we shall be reading hadith number 49. An Abdullah bin Abbas, can you do something about this? An Abdullah bin Abbas radiyallahu anhuma qala أعتم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بالعشاء فخرج عمر فقال الصلاة يا رسول الله. رقد النساء والصبيان فخرج ورأسه يقطر يقول لولا أن أشق على أمتي أو على الناس لأمرتهم بهذه الصلاة هذه الساعة. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu. Abdullah ibn Abbas is one of the Kibar Sahabati, one of the senior and most eminent companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He was a son of Al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, one of the uncles of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He was raised in the house of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by his maternal aunt Maymunatu bintul Harith radiyallahu ta'ala anha, one of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam died, he is said to have left 9 wives, and one of them is Maymunatu bintul Harith, the aunt of Abdullah ibn Abbas. One of the scholars wrote a poem compiling the names of the wives left by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, توفي رسول الله عن 9 نسوة إليهن تنسى المكرمات وتنصب فعائشة ميمونة وصفية وحفصة تتلوهن هند وزينب جويرية مع رملة ثم سودة 63 نظمهن مهذب. توفي رسول الله عن 9 نسوة. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam died leaving 9 wives. إليهن تعزى المكرمات وتنصب. When you talk about honor and dignity, there is no one more deserving of this than the wives of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فعائشة Aisha, Maymunatun bintul Harith, the aunt of Abdullah ibn Abbas, wa Safiyatun, and Safiya bintu Huyay, wa Hafsatu, daughter of Umar, tatluhunna Hindu wa Zainabu, Juwayriyatun ma'a Ramlatin thumma Saudatun, 63 nazmuhunna muhadhab. What does it mean by 63? In the first poem, in the first stanza, he mentioned 6. In the second stanza, he mentioned 3. So that is Thalathun wa Sittun. 3 plus 6 makes 9. Abdullah ibn Abbas was born 3 years before the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, as mentioned by the popular historian Al-Waqidi. Al-Waqidi is a popular historian. I think his name is Umar ibn Abdullah ibn Waqid al-Aslami al-Madini. A popular historian, especially in the aspect of al-Maghazi, Al-Waqidi is an authority. And when Al-Hafidhu al-Dhahabi, rahimahullah, was writing the biography of Al-Waqidi in his Siyar A'lam Nubala, he praised Al-Waqidi and he said, Ahadu aw'iyatil ilmi ala da'fihi al-muttafaqi alayhi. Ahadu aw'iyatil ilmi ala da'fihi al-muttafaqi alayhi. He said Al-Waqidi is one of the vessels of knowledge, even though he is a weak narrator and his weakness is agreed upon. But when you talk about Muslim historians, Al-Waqidi ranks number 1. Abdullah ibn Abbas was just 3 years old when the Prophet did hijrah to Medina. So when the Prophet died, he was around 13 years of age. But within the time Prophet lived, Abdullah ibn Abbas was one of the closest family members to the Prophet ﷺ. He was nicknamed Al-Bahru. Al-Bahru lighazarati ilmihi, because of the vastness of his knowledge. He was also nicknamed Al-Habru, or Habrul Ummah. Al-Habru ay al-alim, a scholar of repute. So he is one of the most distinguished scholars of this Ummah. There is hardly a book of Tafsir bil Ma'thur, that you read without seeing the handwritings of Abdullah ibn Abbas. It is mentioned that Prophet prayed for Abdullah ibn Abbas that Allahumma faqihu fi din wa allimhu ta'wil. Oh Allah, grant him the knowledge of the religion and the interpretations of the Quran. It is mentioned that on one occasion the Prophet came out from his toilet and he saw a vessel of water at his usual ablution place. And when he asked, who has put this water for me for ablution? It was mentioned to him that it was Abdullah ibn Abbas. So he called him and said, Allahumma faqihu fi din wa allimhu ta'wil. So this is a lesson to us, the younger ones, to always do khidmah, to always be in the service of the scholars and the elderly ones. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the blessings of his mighty names. So Abdullah ibn Abbas is said to have died 68 years after Hijrah at Ta'if, but he was buried in Baqi', the cemetery of the companions of Prophet ﷺ. So Abdullah ibn Abbas is the narrator of this hadith. Qala, he said, أعتم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بالعشاء. The Arabic word أعتم is a verb. Atama ya'timu, which means to do something in the first thought of the night. Salatul Isha is also called Al-Atamatu, right? Al-Atama. We have discussed this in one of the previous sittings. The Prophet ﷺ said there are 5 things. If people know the value and the significance of these things, they would have hastened to do them. He said, لو يعلم الناس ما في النداء والصف الأول ثم لم يجدوا إلا أن يستهموا عليه لاستهموا عليه. Are people known the significance and the reward in calling to Salat, being the mu'adhin of the masjid, and in making sure you pray in the first row every time, even if you have to cast a lot, you have to roll paper to say, who is going to be the muazzin for today? who is going to pray the first row? He said, Wallahi, you'd have casted lot to be in that position. وَلَوْ يَعْلَمُونَ مَا فِي التَّهَجِيرِ لَاسْتَبَقُوا إِلَيْهِ. Are people known the significance and the hugeness of the reward in attending salawat very early, in arriving the masjid very early at tahajir? Lastabaku ilayhi. People would have struggled. They would have competed with themselves to be there very early. وَلَوْ يَعْلَمُونَ مَا فِي الْعَتَمَةِ وَالصُّبْحِ لَأَتَوْهُمَا وَلَوْ حَبْوًا. Are people known the significance and the reward in coming for Salatul Isha and Salatul Subh, even if they have to drag themselves to crawl to reach the masjid, they would have done that. So the Arabic word Al-Atamatu means Al-Isha. But like I mentioned in one of my classes, there is another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ detested using the word Atama for Salatul Isha. And he told the Sahaba, he said, do not let the Bedouins, the Arabs from the villages, ruin your Arabic language. So he detested using Atama for Isha. He said he used Isha. But since he had also used Atama in some of the Hadith, it shows that the prohibition was just for Karaha. Was for Karaha. So A'atama al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam bil-Isha. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam delayed coming out for Salatul Isha. And we have also mentioned this in one of the previous ahadith, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was of a particular habit. I think you can check hadith number 46, hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah. That Prophet sallallahu wal-Isha'a ahyanan wa ahyanan idha ra'ahum mujtama'u ajjal wa idha ra'ahum abta'u akhar. The Prophet sallallahu has two different periods for Salatul Isha. Whenever he notices that the companions have gathered in the mosque and they have a large number, he prays Isha very early. But anytime he notices that they had also delayed coming out for Isha, he also delays coming out for Isha. So sometimes he prays Isha very early in the night, sometimes he prays Isha very late in the night. We have discussed this inshallah. So on this particular occasion, A'atama bil Isha, he delayed coming out for Salatul Isha. فَخَرَجَ عُمَرُ radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The noble companion Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu came to the masjid and he moved closer to the Prophet's room. Faqala, and he said, As-salata ya Rasulallah. As-salata ya Rasulallah. O Apostle of Allah, it is time for salah. Please come out and lead us in salah. Let us pray the salah. Why did Umar do this? Why didn't he allow the Prophet to come out when he was ready? Umar gave his reasons. He said, Raqada nisa'u was-sibyan. The women that came out to pray Isha with you have all started sleeping. Ar-rukud. Raqada yarkudu. Rakudan. Wa-rukudan. Wa-ruqadan. Rukud, ruqad. Rukud, Rakudu, and Rukad are all masdar for Raqada, Yarkudu. But the Arabic word Rukud is also the Jamu'u of Raqid. And that is why Allah mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf, وَتَحْسَبُهُمْ أَيْقَاظًا وَهُمْ Rukud, Jamu Raqid. You think they were awake. When you enter the cave where the Ashabul Kahf slept, you think they were all awake because their eyes were wide open. But wahum rukud, they are long gone. So Umar said, Raqada nisa'u, the women have all slept. Was-sibuyan, even the children have started sleeping. So this was the reason that Umar gave to call the Prophet ﷺ to come and lead them in Salatul Isha. فخرج أي فخرج رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet came out. Immediately he heard Umar's voice, and he heard the reason why Umar had called him to come out to lead the people in Ansar. He came out because the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is Rasulur Rahmah. He is a messenger of mercy. Allah describes him in the Quran saying, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ. He usually feels discomfort whenever you go through pains. He doesn't want to see you in a state of discomfort. Whatever grieves you, grieves him. Whatever afflicts you, afflicts him. That is the way it feels for us. And he's bil mu'minina ra'ufur rahim. He is very lenient and merciful and compassionate and kind, empathetic to the believers. So he came out, wa ra'su'u yakutur. Water was dropping from his head. Al-qatru, qataratu, qatru. That is something dripping or dropping, whichever you use. So why was water dropping from his head? Because he immediately went to perform ablution. Once he heard the verse of Umar, he went to perform ablution, and when he came out, you could see water dripping from his head from the ablution that he had just performed. Yaqul, the Prophet was saying while he was coming out, Lawla an ashukka ala ummati, were it not that I do not want to make things difficult for my ummah. Were it not that I do not want to burden my ummah. Aw ala nas. In other narrations, it is mentioned that on the people, not my ummah, but on the people. Of course, the people also means it's ummah. And I usually tell you that when you see the word ummah, it has different connotations. Did I? Different connotations. Ummah could mean a way, a pattern, a tradition. You find in the Quran, Inna wajadina aba'ana ala ummatin. Ummah, on a way, on a tradition, on a pattern. But basically, ummah means a nation. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا أي عَدْلًا. We have made you a just nation. The scholars of Sharia said ummah is divided into two: ummatul da'wa wa ummatul ijaba. The ummatul da'wa means the people that Allah sent the prophets to. Mu'minuhum wa kafiruhum. The believers among them and the disbelievers. Everybody from Yawmul Bi'tha, from the day Almighty Allah raised Muhammad as a prophet and messenger, everybody that lives from that moment hatta qiyam as-sa'a, till the end of time, is ummah of Muhammad, but ummatul da'wah, because the prophet has been sent to call everyone, no exception. But ummatul ijaba is restricted to those that say sami'na wa ata'na. So only the believers are ummatul ijaba. Is that understood? So the Prophet said, Lawla an ashukku ala ummati, were it not that I don't want to burden, to make things difficult for my ummah, or ala nas, or for the people, la amartuhum bihadhihi as-salati hadhihi as-sa'a. I would have commanded them to pray Isha at this time, meaning in the first third of the night, not in this early time. Probably we're looking at something around 10-11 p.m. Around 10-11 p.m. Why did I say this? You know what we mean by the first third of the night? When we say Al-Thuluthul Awwal min al-Layl, you start calculating from Al-Ghurub. So if we assume that Ghurub is 7 p.m., let's assume 7 p.m. and Subuh or Fajr is 6 a.m. I told you this in one of my lectures. You now calculate from 7 to 6. So you say 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So al-thuluthul awwal would be 8, 9, 10, 11. You know, you divide some minutes here and there. So we're talking about between 10 to 11, for instance, 10 to 11 p.m. How many people will wait in the masjid for salat at this time? So the Prophet said, if not that I do not want to make things difficult for my ummah, I would have commanded them to pray Salatul Isha at this time. But because our mother Aisha anha said, Ma khuyyira Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam bayna amurayn qat illa akhadha aysarahuma ma lam yakun ithman. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had never been given a choice between two things except that he would choose the easier. So if Allah gives him a choice that you can do this or you can do this, he will look for the easier one, not because he cannot do the more difficult one, but because of his ummah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that is why he detested anything that is ata'annut, extremism. In fact, he said, halakal mutanatti'un. Tanattu', ta'annut, tashaddud. He said, inna ad-dina yusrun walan yushadda ahadun hadha ad-dina illa ghalaba. This religion is easy. Allah says Islam is easy. Yuridu Allahu bikum al-yusra wa ma ja'ala alaykum fi ad-din min haraj. Islam is very easy. And the prophet that has been sent to us, even though he could do things that are difficult for his ummah, he chose to do the easier ones. One day Mu'adh bin Jabal, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, a noble companion who would pray Isha behind the prophet, but was the imam of his people, you know, in his area, led the Salatul Isha for his people, and he prolonged his qira'ah. A young man from the congregation left him angrily and completed his salat alone. And this hadith is the evidence that the scholars have used to establish what we call mufaraqatul imam. That you can have the intention of leaving the imam even if the imam is still praying. But in what case? Let us assume that one missed Salatul Maghrib in congregation, and by the time you enter the masjid, Salatul Isha had already begun. And the Prophet said, إِذَا أُقِيمَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَلَا صَلَاةَ إِلَّا الْمَكْتُوبَةِ. Once a salat had been established, no other salat should be observed except the one that is established. So you have to pray Maghrib behind an imam praying Isha. And since you may be of the opinion that يجب الترتيب في قضاء الفوائد, that even when you are repaying missed salat, you must follow it sequentially. That is, Maghrib has to come before Isha. You have 3 rakats to pray, the imam has 4 rakats to pray. It means that when the imam rises to the 4th and last rakah, you are not rising with him. Is that correct? Is that correct? Because you have to pray 3 rakat. This is where the ulama talk about niyyatu mufaraqatil imam. So it is either you are sitting down waiting for the imam to come, and then you do your tashahud. While sitting, you do your tashahud, you wait for the imam to conclude his last rak'ah, then he comes and you do taslim together with the imam. This is one opinion. But the second opinion is that you can sit down, have the intention of, I am no longer praying behind this imam, do your tashahud, do your taslim, and if you are lucky to catch the imam before he rises from ruku, you make niyyah of Salatul Isha, and the imam's last rakah for the Isha is your own first rakah for Isha. So scholars that talk about niyyah to mufaraqatil imam use this hadith, because that young man left Muaz praying. He didn't restart his salat. The same salat, he finished his own rak'at and then went and reported to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet did not blame the young man. Rather, he said, Afatanun anta ya Mu'az? Mu'az, are you a troublemaker? And then he said, whenever any of you prays alone, let him elongate as much as he can. But when you lead other people in prayer, you must be moderate in your recitation. So even though salat is an act of ibadah, and we often look at people that prolong their qira'at as maybe the masha Allah wants, when you are leading people in salat, be moderate with your qira'at. Don't use people to do muraja. I have prayed behind Hufaz, and one thing that surprises me is that those who are Hufaz in the Quran hardly elongate their qira'at, except for Taraweeh. But for normal salat, they will just use very short verses, and that's all. But you see the upcoming ones, don't pray behind those ones. They will use it to do muraja. When they start from Khatam Allahu ala qulubihim, you'll be sayakun sufaha'u minan nas, or Sal Bani Israel. May Allah protect us. So the Prophet ﷺ is one that does not like to burden the ummah. This is not the only hadith he's saying, Lawla an ashukwa ala ummati. There's another hadith, the hadith of siwak. Lawla an ashukwa ala ummati la amartum bis siwak inda kulli wudu aw ma'a kulli salah, in some of the other riwayat. So even for siwak, he said, no, I don't want to burden my ummah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So this is the hadith. Gharib al-hadith, the vocabularies in the hadith that need explanation. A'atama ay dakhala fil atama. It means the time that is known as atama. And what is atama? Wahiya dhulumatul layl. The darkness of the night is what is called atama. So Salatul Isha is called al-atamatu because it is a salat that is observed in the darkness of the night. Then Salatul Fajr or Subuh is called that name because we observe it when the darkness of the night had vanished and the morning or the dawn has appeared. وَالْمُرَادُ أَنَّهُ أَخَّرَ صَلَاةَ الْعِشَاءِ بَعْدَ ذَهَابِ الشَّفَقِ. What is meant by Atama is that the Prophet delayed praying Salatul Isha even after the disappearance of the twilight. He still delayed Salatul Isha beyond the normal time. فَصَلَّاهَا فِي ظُلُمَةِ اللَّيْلِ. So he observed Salatul Isha in the darkness of the night, when night had descended. You know, when you look at the sky at this time, you still find flashes of the nujum, the stars. But then there is a time when the darkness of the night will overshadow the stars, and that is when we have just experienced one. May Allah protect us. All right, so that لو كان تأخيرها أفضل, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have done this in most of the times. وَذَهَبَ الْجُمْهُورِ, but the majority of the ulama, that's the jumhur. And whenever you hear the word jumhur, in most cases it refers to majority of the ulama ul-madhahib, the scholars of the four major schools of Islamic jurisprudence. But this does not limit those who hold this opinion to the four schools alone. There are also other scholars that do not belong to any of the four schools that may also hold the same opinion. So the Jumhur said, "Ila anna al-afdala at-ta'khir." The majority of the ulama are of the opinion that delaying Salatul Isha is better than praying it at an earlier time. Mustadillina bihadhihi al-ahadith as-sahihah al-kathira. And their proof are these huge numbers of authentic ahadith. There are so many authentic ahadith that Prophet ﷺ delayed praying Salatul Isha. Amma qawnuhu lam yudawim ala ta'khiriha, concerning the argument that the Prophet did not delay Salatul Isha in most cases. Falam yamna'ahu min dhalika illa khashyatul mashaqqati ala al-ma'mumin. It can be argued that The reason why he did not delay his Isha in most of the cases, or for most of the times, is the same reason why he told the companions in this hadith, Laula an ashukka ala ummati. I do not want to burden my ummah. So if he prayed Isha at an earlier time, it is simply because he didn't want to burden his ummah. So it's the same argument. أخرها ذات ليلة وقد أخرها ذات ليلة. And of course, he delayed it in some of the night, like we have seen in this occasion. فقال, and he said, إنه لوقتها. This is the time you are supposed to pray Salatul Isha. He delayed Salatul Isha until the first part of the night, and he said to the companions, Innaha lawaqtuha. This is the time, the best time to pray Salatul Isha. This is the best time to pray Salatul Isha. Lawla an ashukka ala ummati. If not that I do not want to burden my ummah. So the view of the Jumhur is the more correct opinion. الأفضل في صلاة العشاء التأخير إلا أن يكون في ذلك مشقة على المأمومين. The better of the two times for صلاة العشاء is to delay it, except if it will be difficult for those you are leading in salat. So the imam should adopt the Prophet's style. إذا رآهم أخرجوا عجل وَإِذَا رَآهُمْ أَبْطَؤُوا أَخَّرَ. So if he sees them that they have come out very early, he observes the Salatul Isha very early. If they were late, he delays. Allah Ta'ala alam. مَا يُخَذُ مِنَ الْحَدِيثِ. What are the lessons to be learned from the hadith? الأول أن الأفضل في العشاء التأخير. We learn from this hadith that the better time to observe Salatul Isha is the latter time, not the earlier time. وَيَمْنَعُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ الْمَشَقَّةِ. And the only thing that should stop us from delaying our Isha to the latter time is if it constitutes difficulty and a burden for the followers. And this is part of the masalih of an Islam. You know, when we talk about maqasid sharia, the cardinal objectives of the sharia, one of the most important aspects of the maqasid is masalihul ummah. What will benefit the ummah the more? So if praying early will benefit them the more, we will have larger congregation, we pray early. If delay will benefit us the more, depending on the location and the situation of the people, then we delay. And this is why, as a mufti, you also have to be careful with your fatwa. You have to be careful with your fatwa. So if you go to a place where people like to go and sleep early, you say, Wallahi, al-afdal fil isha at-ta'khir wa ana ufti bidhalik. People will lose Salatul Isha. And that is what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala said. He said, Man afta nasa بمجرد المنقول من الكتب على اختلاف عوائدهم وأحوالهم وقرائن أحوالهم to the end ضل وأضل. And he said وضرره على الناس أو على الأمة أشد من ضرر من طبب الناس على اختلاف عوائدهم وأحوالهم وقرائن أحوالهم. He said, whoever gives fatwa to a people, relying solely on what he read from the books, without considering their conditions and situations and circumstances and peculiarities, you will lead them astray. It's like a doctor that says, your head is paining you. Let me examine you. Take paracetamol. Your head is paining you. Take paracetamol. You kill them. You need to know the situation of each of them. Where is the head? Is it migraine? Is it to the right? Is it to the left? Is it to the front? Is it to the back? You are not giving people the same medicine. You kill them. So fatwa has to be domesticated. We call it domestication of fatwa. So that is number one. Number two, anna al-mashaqqata tusabbibu al-yusra. One of the legal maxims, we call them al-qawa'id al-fiqhiyya. One of the legal maxims in Islam is the doctrine of al-mashaqqatu tajlibu taysir. Al-mashaqqatu tajlibu taysir. Difficulty attracts ease. The ulama formed this legal maxim from several verses of the Quran, including yuridullahu bikumul yusra wala, and also ma ja'ala alaykum fid din min haraj, and also ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa, and also innama harrama alaykum al-maytata wad-dama wa lahma al-khinzir to the end, and he said faman iturra ghayra baghi wala 'ad fala ithma alayhi. It means that if one is in a precarious situation, you are in a dire strait, then what is haram ab initio is halal in that situation until you are out of it. And this is why the ulama will say ad-daruratu tubihu al-ma'zurat ma ubiha li'udhrin batala bi zawalihi ad-daruratu tuqaddaru bi qadriha, among other legal maxims. So this hadith indicates that al-mashaqqatu tusabbibu al-yusra, difficulty attracts ease. And that is why when there is no water for ablution, what is the alternative? Tayammum. Fatayammamu sa'idan tayyiban. If you can't stand to pray, what is the alternative? You sit down. Salli qa'ima. That's the hadith. If you cannot, faqa'ida, you sit down. If you cannot, famutaji'an aw fa'ala jambi, in some other riwayat, you sleep, you lie down. In fact, if you cannot face the Qibla to pray because of the nature of your sickness, you cannot even be turned towards the Qibla, pray like that. In fact, if you cannot move your tongue to recite Fatiha, imagine it in your heart. Islam is so simple. For every difficulty there is what? There is an alternative and solution. Wasuhula is fi hadhihi ash-shari'ati as-samha, in this sharia that gives room. أنه قد يكون ارتكاب العمل المفضول أولى من الفاضل. This hadith also indicates that sometimes the lesser of two things in terms of value may be better than even the better one. You are not following? There are two things. One has a low value, one has a high value. In some situations, the one with the low value may be the better option even than the one with the high value. Now, praying Isha at a later time, delaying Isha, is better than praying it at an earlier time, right? But in some situations, praying it at an earlier time is better than praying it at a later time. Why? Because of the lack of situation that happened here. Raqada nisa'u was-sibyan. The women have slept, children have slept. So what will you do? You have to pray Isha very early. Even though delaying it is the better option, but in certain circumstances, praying it early will be what? Will be the better one. إِذَا اقْتَرَنَ بِهِ أَحْوَالٌ وَمُلَابَسَاتٌ. If there are circumstances and, exigencies dictating that. Number 4, كَمَالُ شَفَقَةِ النَّبِيِّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ وَرَحْمَتِهِ بِأُمَّتِهِ. This hadith also indicates the perfection or the perfect nature and the completeness of the Prophet's kindness, compassion, empathy, and mercy with his ummah. He could have said, let them sleep now, that's our wala. No. He was not sent to put people in difficulty. He was not sent to put people in difficulty. So he came out immediately. He rushed out, water dripping. You see, I tell my students in the hadith class, the scholars who reported a hadith were very meticulous and thorough. They report every detail. You will imagine what is the benefit of warasu'u yakutur. What is the benefit telling us that water was dripping from his head, right? But it has benefit to show us that the Prophet was so compassionate and empathetic. He performed a mission and came out even with water dripping from his head to show how empathetic he was. Number 5, كون بعض النساء والصبيان يشهدون الجماعة مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The hadith also indicates that it was part of the tradition of the female companions of Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم to come to the masjid to pray salat. Even though women are exempted from the obligation of salatul jama'ah, a woman may decide to pray in her room. The Prophet ﷺ said, the salat of the woman in her house is better than a salat even in the masjid in her compound. And a salat in the masjid in her compound is better than a salat in the masjid outside her compound. But he also said, La tamna'u ima Allahi masajid Allah. Do not deny, do not prohibit the female servants of Allah from coming to the masjid to pray. And I've told you several times, women are exempted from praying in salat for several reasons. Number one, for their own safety. It is possible that there are evil men around looking for women to kidnap or looking for women to rape. Wal-'iyadhu billah. And so by leaving her house to come to the masjid, she may be kidnapped. Women are the weaker gender. She may be kidnapped or raped. So what will happen? For her safety, pray in your house. Number two, because of difficulty associated with a woman, for instance, a housewife that has to cook for her husband, clean the house, take care of her kids, and then come out to pray again. In fact, it is possible that while salat was being called, she was rushing to finish the food. Let her not abandon her food. Let her take care of her food, finish cooking, pray your own salat after. You don't have to follow the salat in the masjid. Number three, women naturally want to appear beautiful. In fact, if you allow them to do makeup to the mosque, they will do it. Because like Allah described them in the Quran, our man yunasha'u fil hiliyati wa huwa fil khisami ghayru mubin. Women are a creation of beauty, of ornaments. Beautification is a natural trait, a natural inclination of a woman. So you can't separate them from trying to look good. So imagine if a woman has to come to the masjid and she has to put a mascara, then paint the face, whatever, there will be problems. And she doesn't want to go out. Some women cannot come out without using makeup because their natural face, they feel this inferiority complex. Wallahi, I've never seen a woman use makeup except that her natural beauty is better than her makeup. Billahi al-azim. I have never seen a woman that uses makeup except that her natural face is better than her makeup, than her artificial face. But وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُنَّ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. The majority of them do not realize this. When they use makeup, they look like statue or mannequins that are used for display. And then number 5, because of fitna. Because of fitna. Because if you are not careful, they are coming to the masjid may cause fitna for some men. There are men with very weak hearts. Very weak. They don't see anything moving in skirts. It gives them migraine and diarrhea. They will start having mental menstruation and diarrhea. So let women pray in their rooms. But this hadith indicates that women used to come out to pray during the time of Prophet, and children. The companions used to bring their children to the masjid. It is important. Always take your children to the masjid to pray. You are training them right from childhood. Number 6. Sarahatu Umar Umar was very clear with the Prophet. You know, he expressed himself clearly and emphatically, unequivocally, and unambiguously. لِإِدْلَالِهِ وَثِقَتِهِ min khuluqin Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Umar knew the Prophet character, he knew his attitude, he knew the Prophet would never put his ummah to difficulty. Umar gave the reason so that it will move the Prophet sallallahu to come out on time. Said the women have slept, the children have slept. And finally, fihi dalilun ala tanbil akabir li'ihtimal al-ghafla aw tahsil fa'ida. The hadith also indicates or teaches that there is nothing wrong in calling the attention of our leaders and elders to something we feel they may have unconsciously left out doing. Umar knew that Prophet would never know that women and children were sleeping and he would remain in his room. He will not come out. So Umar called his attention to it. So if you see anyone making a mistake, even if the person is of a higher authority, call his attention. But the manner of attention calling is one thing we need to learn also. Because there is al-nasihatu and there is al-fadiha. Nasiha is giving sincere advice. Fadiha is when you expose someone. So somebody is reciting the Quran, is making a mistake. Hey, you are reading rubbish. You are not correcting that person. You are exposing him. You move closer to him. Brother, can we read this together? That's a way of encouraging him. But if the person is a leader meaning someone with authority, advising him should be done privately. The Prophet said, Man arada an yansaha lidhi sultanin fala yubdihi alaniyatan. لكن يأخذ بيده فيخلو به فإن قبل منه فذاك وإلا كان قد أدى الذي عليه. Whoever wants to advise a leader should not do it in the open, because he will feel belittled. You know, the power, he will feel belittled. Let him take his hand and take him to somewhere private. Advise him privately. فإن قبل منه فذاك. If the leader accepts, fine. Wa illa, if the leader does not accept, you have done what is obligatory on you, and that is ad-dinu nasiha. Qulna liman qala lillah wa li rasulihi wa li a'immatil wa li kitabihi wa li a'immatil muslimin wa amatihim. So you have done your own part of nasiha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us perfect understanding of His religion. May He forgive us of our sins and mistakes, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to guide us to what is right and righteous. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. We'll take the call to Salat, and after that a few questions inshallah. We have a dozen of questions here. Actually 15 questions. And I hope you don't have anyone to read inshallah. So let's start. You made mention that the Prophet detested using Salat, calling Salat al-Isha using the name Al-Atama by citing an hadith, but in the hadith of discussion, the word atama has been used. Even you use it repeatedly, severally. How are we going to juxtapose the both hadith? I think I've mentioned this. That there's a hadith that Prophet says, do not let the Bedouin Arabs ruin your Arabic language. You should call al-Isha and not al-Atama. But there are also other hadith, like the hadith al-Bab, the hadith we read this evening, where he called it al-Atama, and also the hadith I read earlier that لَوْ يَعْلَمُ النَّاسُ مَا فِي النِّدَاءِ وَالصَّفِ الْأَوَّلِ to the end, he called it al-Atama. And this is why the scholars have mentioned that the Prophet may just have detested it, not that it is haram, because he also used it in several other hadith. So it is permitted to call Isha al-Atama. There is nothing wrong with that, and the karaha is just a minor detestation, not one that leads to haram. So even if you call it al-Atama, you are right. And if you call it al-Isha, that is even better, because the word al-Isha was more beloved to Prophet than al-Atama. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. If someone slept off without praying Salatul Isha till Subuh, can he observe Salatul Isha before or after Salatul Subuh? Yes, he can observe Salatul Isha if he wakes up before Salatul Subuh. And if he doesn't wake up until after Salatul Subuh, he should still observe Salatul Isha before Salatul Subuh. The Prophet ﷺ said, Man nama an salatin aw nasiyaha fakaffaratuhu an yusalliyaha idha dhakaraha. Whoever sleeps or forgot to pray a salat should repay the salat as soon as he remembers the salat. So if you wake up before Fajr, pray Salatul Isha and then pray Salatul Fajr. And even if you wake up after Salatul Fajr, even if it is when the sun has risen, you should still pray Salatul Isha and then Salatul Fajr in that manner. Wallahu ta'ala alam. What is the Islam? Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. What is the Islamic ruling of a woman or a man who prays outside the mosque following the procedure of the imam through the public address system? My preferred opinion, wallahu ta'ala alam, is that you should try and join the jama'ah in the masjid, even if it means that you lose some rak'at while trying to enter the masjid. This is better for you because when we say jama'ah, we mean that the sufuf, the rows are joining, they are joined together. But if you pray outside the masjid because the masjid is filled up and people are praying outside the masjid and you form your own sufuf, there is nothing wrong with that, so long as you can hear the voice of the imam. My fear is that what if the public address system goes off as the light went off the other time? How would you complete your salat? That is just my fear. But it doesn't make your salat to be invalid. Your salat is still valid, inshallah. In fact, sometimes I pity our sisters because they cannot see us when they pray in their masjid, but congratulations, we have so many mu'adhinun. So as soon as the microphone goes off, Afa Daud wa ikhwatuhu will start raising their voices, and so the women can also hear us. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Can we give a hadith or an ayah that says or prove that the voice of a female is aura? No, there is no hadith or ayah that says the voice of a woman is aura. This is just one of the opinions expressed by the ulama, and their reason is that the woman is not allowed to speak indiscriminately in the presence of a non-mahram, and that this is the reason why even in praying salat of loud recitation, a woman does not recite aloud to the hearing of a non-mahram. But there is no single hadith or ayah that says sawtul mar'ati awra. No. But if there's a need for a woman to speak in public, of course she can speak in public. We have seen, for instance, Khawlatu bintu Tha'laba, the woman who came to report to Prophet ﷺ, and Allah revealed Suratul Mujadila. So she came out and spoke publicly. There are also several examples of women speaking publicly to the Prophet ﷺ, if there is a need to do that. But if there is no need, a woman should not be so outspoken to the extent that she can speak anywhere. No, women should not be like that. Women should be reserved. And I know that men, when I say men, I mean real men, not sick men. Men love women that are reserved. Men don't love women that are so outspoken. Because if she's so outspoken, it means that if you say A, she'll finish the whole alphabet even before you think about saying B. Men love women that are reserved. That wallahi, even if she is somewhere, unless you ask her to speak, she'll just... MashaAllah. Those ones are the MashaAllah sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Which of these is better or is more preferable? Allahumma salli wa sallim ala nabiyyina Muhammad, or Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad to the end. This one is better. Salat Ibrahimiyya, that one is the best. That one is the best. To say Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad to the end, this one is better. But whichever you do, inshallah, you also be rewarded. Even if all you said is sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you'll be rewarded. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa sallim, you'll be rewarded. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim, you'll be rewarded. Or you do the salatu of Baba Wani wa say Agbayi, we call it salatu kamaliyya. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala ahlihi wa ashabihi wa atba'ihi wa sallim. Baba Luniye, alayhi rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum wa barakatuh. Can you give an advice on how to deal with parents that have refused to allow their daughters to wear the niqab because they feel she feels inferior, even after the daughter explained that she is perfectly fine? May Allah protect our sisters from some of the parents that have this harsh stance. And sometimes it's actually out of love. Wallahi, some parents that say, don't use hijab, don't use niqab, it's not because they hate you, it's because they love you. But the love is negative. It's negative love. Because, you see, they like you. They say, if you are using this thing, you will not get a job. You will not get a fine man to come and marry you. See you as beautiful as you are not covering your face. You're not going to marry those very ugly brothers with beard and short trousers that will be saying, inshallah, inshallah. That's why some of the parents are concerned. But you can assure them, we have seen sisters in niqab, even in Western universities in the UK, in the US, coming first of on top of their classes. The hijab and the niqab only covers your beauty from fitna. It does not cover your brain. Your brains are perfectly fine. So you continue to reassure your parents. Sometimes the parents feel insecure that if you start using this niqab now and you are saying salam alaikum, you'll be following all those extreme brothers. You know, there are extremists among the brothers. Those that say, no, your parents are wallahi kafir, don't greet them, don't say. So that's the fear. Sometimes it's out of fear, out of love, out of fear. So it is you that should reassure your parents that you will not follow those extremists. Those extremists, you will not follow them. You respect your parents within the haddu of the Sharia without going overboard. And because sometimes the mother feels that she will go and buy picnic and give me, that this is the breast milk she suckled when she was young. So you say you want to practice the sunnah. How well do you relate with your parents? How well? So you say because your father doesn't keep beard, hey, you are running away from your father. Is something wrong with your head? So what if your father is the akpena? Or your father is the one doing ayajo, ayato, ayade, ayemu? What will you do? Asma bint Abi Bakr, the mother was an idol worshipper. She came and said, Rasulullah, inna ummi qadimat. My mom has just come. Wa hiya muhtaja. She has come seeking my help. Afa asilu ummi. Should I relate to her mother? He said, yes, sili ummaki. Relate to your mother. An idol worshipper. Your own parents are even Muslim. They say, wallahi muhtaja. Because one idiot has brainwashed your head. So you are running away from home. Salaam alaikum. Ele. You should be taken to psychiatry. So it is people like this that are destroying the image of Sunnah and making parents to have fears. We have also seen situations where some people will advise them. We advised some people just a couple of years ago when some parents said they don't want their daughters to use the long hijab. We advised them, let's go through the easier routes. Let's find a roundtable discussion with the parents. Say, no. They took the parents to court. Destroying the bond of family. So if a parent sees his daughter trying to use such hijab and he flashes back and says, hijab would the parent allow you to use it? So we need to reorientate ourselves. We need to speak the home truth to ourselves. Your parents are not just, I don't want to use the word irrational with due respect to parents. They are not irrational. They are either nursing fear of a possibility of what other people's children have done to them, or because they so much love you, but it is a negative side. So try to move closer to your parents, especially when you travel back home. Let your parents know you are responsible. Your mother is cooking, you are in the room. Sulia, which Quran are you reading? Is something wrong with your head? When was the last time you washed your father's clothes? Even as a female child. When was the last time? These are some of the things you do to your parents, and they are rest assured that, my daughter is still my daughter. When was the last time you even went to the living room or your father's bedroom to sit with him and have a discussion, father and daughter? Not any serious discussion, no. Just normal discussion, father and daughter. Say, you go and lock yourself up in your room. So your father does not even know what kind of mentality or ideology is in your head now. They are scared. Give your parents a reason to trust you. That this niqab I'm using, I will never use it to go against Allah's injunctions in relating with you. Shikena. How can someone change son and family name? Oh, that is related to tradition, e.g. Abi, Ifabi, Egungun Jobi. You can't change the name of your father. You can only change your own name. As far as I know, you can only change your name. So your father named you Esubi, and your father's name is Ifabi. So when you became a Muslim, you changed your name to Abdullah. Abdullah Gun Esubi. You know what Esubi means? My house, you know Esubi? Iblis walada hadha. Iblis gave back to this one. Allah. You can't change your father's name. Your father's name is his name. So all you should do is to keep praying to Allah and working on changing your father to become a Muslim, so that you will not be Abdullah ibn Iblis walada hadha. Allah will call you. Is it permissible to work in organizations like CBN, Nexim, whatever, because they engage in riba and even like UBA? No. The Muslim cannot work even as a cleaner, gardener, electrician, generator man in a riba-based establishment. Do you know why? Because the Messenger of Allah sallallahu caused riba. He said, "La'ana Allahu riba." Almighty Allah has caused riba. And then Almighty Allah has caused akila riba wa mukilaha wa katibaha wa shahidaha wa qawlahum sawa. They are the same. The only sin that Almighty Allah threatens war against its perpetrator is riba. He didn't threaten war against Zani, against Sarik, even against someone that takes another person's life unjustly. He didn't threaten war. But when it came to riba, he said, if you don't leave it, what did he say? فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. If you do not leave riba, expect a war from Allah and His Apostle. Can you wait for Allah to even slap you, let you know a war? Can you wait for Allah's violence? Can you? So don't work there. Whatever you get is haram. If I'm praying with the Imam and I have prayed one rakah, my ablution spoiled, I left the salah to perform ablution, and I still made the Imam in the last rakah, am I pray only the missing one, or repeat both the one I prayed with the one you are missing? You repeat what you have prayed and what you are missing. And this is the better of the two opinions. You cannot do al-bina, you have to repeat the salah. The evidence is the hadith of Abu Hurairah ta'ala anhu. The Prophet said, لا يقبل الله صلاة أحدكم إذا أحدث حتى يتوضأ. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. My mom has been kind to me, therefore I need some supplications to be offered for her, that Almighty Allah keep blessing her and also give her good ending. My mom has also been the same. So we should go and pray for our mothers together. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite mercy continue to bless your mother and our mothers as well, and your fathers too, and my father in his grave. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect her, prolong her life on goodness, and cement the harmonious relationship between the two of you, and grant you the opportunity to attain Jannah through your obedience to your mother. We didn't collect money for that one. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Please, during tashahud, when on salat, and he or she yawns, which of the hand will he use to cover his mouth? Use your left hand, because your right hand is busy doing tashahud. The Prophet ﷺ said that at-tafawubu min ash-shaytan, yawning is from shaitan. فَإِذَا تَثَاءَبَ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلْيَكْذِمْ مَسْتَطَاعَ. Whenever any of you is yawning, he should cover his mouth or stop the yawning to the best of his ability. It is one of the signs of idiots. Wow. It's a sign of idiocy. Please, what's the difference between buying a car, using it for balance and carry, and making on balance and carry, and making online investment and getting from it after some couple of days? How can you compare the two? You can buy a car on installments or hire purchase, no problem. That you pay for a car, when you finish paying, it becomes your own. No problem. That's a hire purchase. No problem. Online investment, I told you last week, just be careful what you invest in. Don't go and do MMM. Know what you are investing in. Is it halal business, or you are dealing with Yahoo people, or vice versa? Ovayoza is about 26-year-old. She scammed Nigerians about 4 billion naira. 26-year-old. 26-year-old. 4 billion. That girl. She is doing business of granite, importer, exporter, and teleprompter. What is the position of a woman that went to mosque to pray without taking permission from her husband? She is a sinner. Any woman that leaves her husband's house without his permission is a sinner. She should go back, do tawbah, beg the husband for forgiveness, and never repeat such nonsense again. Boyfriend and girlfriend relationship in Islam, the two of you are idiots disturbing yourselves. Music in Islam is haram. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said regarding the ayah in Surah Luqman that Allah said, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. He said, وَاللَّهِ هُوَ الْمُوسِيقُ وَالْغِنَى وَاللَّهِ هُوَ الْغِنَى وَاللَّهُ الْغِنَى. Music is haram in Islam. How can someone protect himself from zina where girls are cheap? Girls, are you cheap? Are you cheap? They say they are not cheap. So I don't know why you are asking me where girls are cheap. You should close your eyes. Or Allah already gave you the formula. Ya kullil mu'minin yaghuddu, lower your gaze, wa yahfadhu furujan, protect your chastity. So if you feel girls are cheap, go to where girls are expensive and see whether you still commit zina. If I meet the imam on the second rakah of Salatul Isha and the imam mistakenly prays 5 rakah instead of 4, which makes mine to complete 4 rakah, am I still repaying my? No. That additional rakah is your own last rakah. Because you may think that the imam actually prayed 5 when he actually prayed 4 sometimes. What if in one of the rak'ah the imam did not recite Surah Al-Fatiha and so he made it up, and he will later explain to the people that wait, I made a mistake. But in any case, if your salats are complete as 4 rakats praying behind that imam, your salat is complete. Whatever error the imam has made, that is his own problem. But you do the sajda with the imam. And finally, can a couple use protection to regulate birth control? Who asked this question? Are you married? Do I have a married brother here? Are you married? When you marry, you come and ask that question. But yes, you can. Using contraceptives to control birth is permitted in Islam with conditions. Number 1, that it is not a permanent contraceptive. Like for instance, one of the techniques of contraceptive is what we call vasectomy. Another one is tubal ligation. I think that's the name, tubal ligation, where the male organ, like castration, so you will not have fertile semen again. So if it is the permanent one, it is haram in Islam. But if it is temporary and there is a reason, a valid reason for it, it's permitted. For example, you married in 100 level and you told your husband, see, I can't bear pregnancy and studies at the same time, so let's delay pregnancy until I reach the final year. No problem. But a Muslim must not have the intention of just having 2 or 3 children only. It's not permitted. So I just want to have 2 or 3 children. Why? Allah says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ خَشْيَةَ إِمْلَاقٍ in one ayah. Another ayah, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ مِنْ إِمْلَاقٍ. And he said in one of the ayat, نَحْنُ نَرِزُقُكُمْ وَإِيَّاهُمْ. Another ayah, نَحْنُ نَرِزُقُهُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ. The provisions, your provisions and their provisions is on us. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. Allah is the provider. I keep telling people, I'm very proud of this. I keep telling people, my mama na the number 4th wife of my papa, and I'm number 19 of his children. I tell you every time. If my papa no born reach me, who go they give you lecture now? So I don't know why you are scared of having babies. Have tanaka hu wa tanasalu. Marry and have children. Just be hardworking. Make sure you can provide though. Not tanaka hu wa tanasalu. You are now giving birth to alimajiri. Hey. Work hard. Pray. Give birth to children. Forget any other thing. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.